Hey everyone, what is going on? It is BradPhusion here, and welcome back to Space Engineers. Now, today's video is going to be a quick overlook at the latest update for Space Engineers, which was 1.038, which you can clearly see on the right side of my screen there, which adds quite a few awesome features, such as steering wheels and wheel control for the cockpit, which I kind of speculated about a few weeks ago when I had noticed that if you go to the control panel and underneath cockpit, you notice a little line there, which meant that they were adding something new for that, and I believe this is what it is. So I'll go in and I'll show you guys that in the game. But first things first, I'll show you guys a few new features that they added for the main menu, such as the configurable welder and grinder speed, and the fact that you can actually search for servers now by actually typing in names. So if I go to join world here, you can actually see that I can search for certain games by typing in a certain name. I don't know why that was the first server that came up. I guess it's just finding random servers now. But like I said, if I wanted to search for certain servers, say if I type in AUS, which is normally Oz or a tag used for Australian games, it would maybe try to find some. But I am uploading right now, so I didn't expect to find any servers. And that was also a random tag that I hope. But there we go. AU found atmospheric. There we go, finding some games now, which is kind of cool. Nothing really relevant to what I'm searching for unless they have AU in the title somewhere. But anyway, that's the search game functionality. Now let's go to the weld options where we can now change the welding speed. So if we go edit settings here and go into the advanced tab, you can see that you can now increase the welding speed and grinding speed from 0.5, well from realistic to be honest, to 0.5 to 2 and then 5 times, which is kind of cool because normally you would have to modify them yourself, and normally about 5 times is what I would normally set my welding speed to go to when I was modifying the files. So 5 times is great. Not much else has been added here. You can reset ownership if you want, but that's from the previous update. Here we go. Okay, I can now show you guys the wheels and whatnot inside the game. Okay, so welcome to Auraxis. This is one of the racetracks I had made for the hover vehicles that I was working on just the other week, and this is one of the tracks that I left as a standalone, painted nice and white, has a trap over there, and it's kind of cool looking nonetheless. But before I get on to talking about the wheels and whatnot, I will say that I will be live streaming Space Engineers a little bit later on today after this video goes live. So if you want to go check out my Twitch channel, you go down to the link down below. I thought some of you guys, because I've done 2 live streams so far, and you guys really enjoyed it. I played Space Engineers, I played Amnesia, I played a whole bunch of other games. It's really quite enjoyable for my first time streaming. It's obviously not the same quality as my videos. It's 480p, but it's still quite enjoyable nonetheless. Hopefully some of you guys will join me for that. Anyways, here's the wheels down here. Now, these wheels are clearly different from the original wheels, which are over here. Now, the cockpit can't control the wheels on the rotors. So here you guys see that they're counted as rotors still, obviously for obvious reasons. Now, if I go enable wheels here and try to use any of my keys, nothing will happen. That's because the control wheels option only controls these wheels over here. So here we have the small ship variants, the 1 times, the 3 times, and the 5 times, I believe. And you guys can see that it has suspension here and it has the actual turning capability, which is kind of cool. So this is replicated on the same here. Now the one thing you might want to note is that whilst these have a 1x1 connection, the actual larger one here has a 2x2, so keep that in mind when you're building larger vehicles using this wheel here. Now up here we have the 1x1, 3x3 and the 5 times large wheels. I still don't see a reason for using a wheel this big, but I guess some of you guys may have already came up with something. So that's it for the wheel variants and the size and shapes. I'll show you guys some vehicles I've now made using said wheels. So here we have a really simple vehicle using only 4 wheels, control in the front, propulsion in the back, and here we have a vehicle that uses all wheels for both steering and propulsion. If you don't know what I mean by that, let me get inside the seat here so you guys can see a little bit more detail. So the front 2 wheels are the first 2, and the back 2 are the bottom 2 down here. So you can see that with the front 2, the steering is enabled, however the propulsion is not, and the back 2 have propulsion but not steering. Which simply means that when I'm driving around, A and D turns the front 2 wheels, and W and S control the acceleration and deceleration of the vehicle. Now I can enable it so that all wheels steer and all wheels propel, which will look something like this. So if I do drive without the handbrake off, you'll see that the vehicle is quite fast as it is, quite nimble, but it is a little bit more bouncy. Now I have to say that whilst the wheels are a great addition to the game, especially with suspension and the steering capability, because it enables so much new possibilities that you can make with vehicles, it does feel a little buggy, and I'll show you guys that in a second. It's quite easy to notice, especially when driving at higher speeds. Now I have tried with several artificial masses, I've tried changing the wheel's position and the settings on the wheels. It does feel a little weird when you go over a certain speed limit, and even right now you'll notice it's a little drifty, but that might have to do with the friction that I have set to. So if I set more friction, it'll then bounce around a little bit more. So this is okay as it is, not very fast speed, and like I said, a very low friction. So if I go down here, I can then change the friction value, increase it a little bit more here, and we'll put it power up to 100, which is what it's normally set to. But as you guys can see, with the power set to that, whilst it does accelerate quite quickly, it does kind of bounce around a lot with the higher friction value. So we'll lower down the friction and lower down the power just a little bit here. So there you guys go. I've already spun out of the vehicle. Oh, well, not really spun, kind of rolled it over. But you guys can see like the bounciness is also an issue. But that's why you can turn up the dampeners as well. So let me talk a little bit more about the settings here once I stop the vehicle. So the dampeners are quite self-explanatory. They're more so the suspension control. Now the tooltips don't exactly explain much as to what these individual things do other than the friction and the power. But the dampeners, I believe, control the suspension, so the amount of bounce you have, or the amount of relief that the tires have when they hit the ground. So they kind of deflects a little bit more the higher the dampener actually is, and the lower it is, the more stiff the actual suspension is. The strength, I'm not too sure what the strength does, because that doesn't affect the propulsion in any way, because that's the power. The friction affects the wheel friction on the surface, so the less friction you have, the more slidey the vehicle is, and the more grip the vehicle has. Obviously, the more friction you have, the more bouncier the wheels seem to be, because they just kind of bounce off the ground because they have so much friction. And power, obviously, is the propulsion, so the faster it accelerates and the maximum speed you can reach. That's understandable. The strength, I still don't know what that's for, really. It seems like it actually is the strength of the suspension as well, but I can't, like, don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely too sure myself. But these things do work quite well. I'll put all the settings down on low to see if this actually does work any better on the lower settings. So here we are on the low settings. And like I said, these do handle quite fine at low speeds. It's when you reach higher speeds do things start going wrong. And by wrong, I mean very wrong. And you guys have seen that right now in this demonstration I've been showing you guys. The vehicles will flip around, they won't have any grip. It'll just look really weird. So right now, the wheels are better on slow-moving vehicles, which kind of makes sense, really. The one thing I don't like is how gravity, despite being on 1G, doesn't affect these vehicles as they would do in real life. Now that might be because the artificial masses aren't all over the vehicles, and we don't really have artificial mass in real life, but everything actually does get held down by gravity, as we're on this. The only points being held down by gravity are the actual points where the artificial masses are. So that might be why things are a little bit different here. But nonetheless, the vehicles do control alright. I do love the fact that we can control it via the cockpit. And as I should have shown you guys before, you can also control thrusters at the same time. Or I can toggle all on, or just thrusters only, or all off. Really depending on how you want that to be. So let's turn around here and just see if we can line ourselves back up on the runway and take the other one around for a spin. So the other one is an all-wheel control using all 8 wheels for steering and acceleration. And let me just let me set this back to how it was default. So we'll do steering on them, and we'll do propulsion on them. So this is basically how a normal car would function. The front 2 wheels turn, and the acceleration can come from the back or front wheels, normally from the back tires. So this is a little bit more smoother than what it was before, clearly because it drives like a normal car. It doesn't have to worry about the all wheels turning and whatnot, so that's quite fine. I'll show the next vehicle, then I'll move on to the hacking, which has been modified slightly as well. So here we go, inside this big vehicle here. Let's turn off the handbrake here using P. You guys can see that I'm accelerating quite nicely with it. Now it does bounce around a little bit more for obvious reasons. I mean, it is a big vehicle, it does have a lot of wheels. If you go down, now this is all the default settings this game had this set to, by the way. Damping of 9%, strength of 19, friction of 18, and power of 100. That's okay, I guess, but it's not exactly what I want because I feel that might be a little bit too much for something so big. So this is more of a transportation vehicle. You guys can see a few seats in the back there as well. Heavily protected, which is kind of nice, other than the wheels, which are kind of exposed. But other than that, this makes for an alright transportation vehicle. Kind of like a rover. It kind of actually looks like a rover, actually. Very simple, but very effective as well. Too bad the wheels don't really control all too well. And I think when the wheels actually like that, they kind of touch, so that's a little bit problematic, really. But other than that, they do their job quite fine. Let me see what actually happens if I get rid of the two inner wheels here. To see how this thing handles with just two outer wheels. So there we go, we'll get rid of them. Let's see if this thing functions just as bad as it was before. So okay, we're trying to turn back now. Don't have any actual acceleration at all here. Let's turn up the power here. A little bit more friction, see that that's actually going to help us at all. You notice we're actually turning slightly the wrong way, which is a little bit weird. There we go, we're starting to get something going here. Bouncing. I think the wheels are actually hitting the side frame, which is something I never actually noticed before when I was doing any testing. But yeah, like I said, wheels are a little bit weird, and this is what I mean by the gravity. Even though it's set to 1, it doesn't feel like real world gravity, so a little bit weird on that regard. But nonetheless, that is wheels. They are functional, but they are a little bit buggy, so keep that in mind. Now, before I was talking about hacking. Now, the hacking in Space Enemies is quite simple. You grind down something to the point where you take out the computer chip, and then you insert your own to kind of reset its ownership values. That is basically hacking in this game. Not exactly hacking in the right sense, but I guess it works for the most part. So in here, you'll notice that the blue bar on the right side, now that is where the computer chip is. It's different in every single component that actually has a computer chip. So will it be at the top or at the bottom? It really depends on how far you'd have to grind it down. Now on this one, I grind down quite quickly. That's because I have the higher grinding speed set as well, so that has to be kept in mind. But basically, if something isn't owned by you, you grind it down a lot slower. I don't know how much slower it is because I can't set this to be anyone else's tool because no one else has been in this world here. But basically, like I said, if it's owned by an enemy, your grinding speed will be a lot slower on said item than what it will be if it's controlled by nobody or by yourself. So there we go. That's the basics of today's update. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. What do you guys think about the wheels and everything? And like I said before, hopefully you guys can see me in today's stream where I'll be playing a little bit more Space than it's maybe working on Thanatos, which is a ship you guys were helping me make the other day. Anyways, thank you for watching today's video. I do apologize for the lack of videos lately. I have had a lot of family stuff come up, especially my nan has actually just recently came up here and she's coming over on Sunday, which would be nice because I haven't seen her for quite a few years. So, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys liked today's video, and hopefully I can get back to doing more Space Enemies videos for you guys because I have missed this game quite a lot because I haven't played it for like a week or so. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Stay awesome and take care.